Susan did everything the brochure told her to do. She started saving at 30. She maxed out her retirement account in the good years. She never carried a credit card balance. She read the books, met with a planner twice, and retired at 66 with $250,000 and a paid-off car. By every rule we're handed, Susan won. And 4 years later, she's sitting at her kitchen table doing the same nervous math Margaret and Frank were doing. Except Susan is the one nobody warned. Because Susan is the one who followed the plan exactly, and the plan still ran out from under her. This isn't a story about a mistake. That's what makes it the scariest one. This is what happens when you do everything right, and right isn't enough. Not the plan on paper, the fourth year, when the account balance stops being a number you're proud of and starts being a countdown. Let's start by being honest about that number, because $250,000 sounds like a lot. To most people, it sounds like safety. Here's the problem. Retirement isn't about the size of the pile. It's about how long the pile has to last, and how fast the world empties it. Susan retired at 66. A woman who reaches 66 today has a good chance of seeing 90. That's 24 years the money has to cover. 24 years of rent, food, insurance, and every ordinary surprise a life throws. Run the simple version. $250,000 spread across 24 years is about $10,400 a year, around $860 a month on top of Social Security. That was Susan's cushion. Not a fortune, a little over $800 a month of breathing room. If nothing went wrong, and nothing got more expensive. Two things went wrong, and everything got more expensive. So let's follow the money, the way Susan finally had to. Her Social Security is $1,900 a month. Her savings added about $860. Call it $2,760 a month to live on. On paper, workable. Then the paper met the world. Her rent was $1,200 when she retired. 4 years later, it's $1,550. That's $350 a month gone. Not to anything she bought, just to staying in the same apartment. Her health insurance, the part Medicare doesn't cover, went from $220 a month to $340. Another $120 gone. Groceries for one, the careful kind, went from $300 to $420. Gone. She didn't buy anything new. Her life didn't get bigger. The exact same life just quietly cost about $600 more a month than it did the day she retired. And her income didn't move to match it. The $800 cushion was already almost gone before either disaster arrived. If you've ever watched a number you were proud of turn into a number you're afraid of, you already know this channel. Joy Per Dollar tells honest retirement money stories. No yachts, no panic, no tax tricks. Just real bills and quiet math. The parts most finance channels skip. If that sounds like your life, or the life you're quietly worried about, subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, back to Susan's two disasters. Here's where she did everything right, stops being a comfort, and starts being the whole point. The first thing was her knee. A fall, a surgery, and the months of physical therapy Medicare only partly covered. The bills that were left over came to about $11,000. Susan paid them because she had savings, which is exactly what savings are for. But 11,000 out of a shrinking pile is more than a year of her cushion gone in one autumn. The second thing was slower and worse. The market had a bad stretch right after she retired, in the years when her account could least afford it. She wasn't reckless. Her money was invested the sensible way she'd been told. But a downturn in the first years of retirement does something a downturn at 40 never does. She was withdrawing while it dropped, selling low just to eat, and the pile never fully recovered the ground it lost. Neither of those was a mistake. A knee is not a mistake. A market is not a decision. Susan did nothing wrong, and both of them took years off her money anyway. This is the part the plan never mentions. Doing everything right protects you from your own mistakes. It does not protect you from the world. So what does a person do when the plan they followed perfectly still comes up short? Not panic. Susan is past panic. She adjusts, the way the other two did, with quiet, unglamorous moves. She cut the withdrawal. Instead of the $860 a month the plan allowed, she takes $400 now to make the pile last longer. That $460 gap has to come from somewhere, so it comes out of her life. Smaller groceries. No car replacement. She'll drive the paid-off one until it dies. The small trips to see the grandkids became one trip a year instead of 3. She looked at the rent, the biggest number, the same lever Margaret pulled. She's on a waiting list for income-restricted senior housing, which in her town is 2 years long. So for now, she stays, and the rent keeps winning. And she did the hardest thing, which was to forgive herself. For 2 years, Susan believed she must have done something wrong, because the story we're told is simple. Save enough, and you're safe. When the safety didn't come, she assumed the failure was hers. It wasn't. The number was never as safe as the brochure made it sound. None of this is a rescue. It's a careful woman stretching a good plan across a reality it was never quite built for. Let me be honest about what this actually feels like, because it's a specific kind of hard. Frank never expected much, so making it feels like winning. Susan expected to be safe. She earned safe. She did the math, and the math promised her safe. So for Susan, the hard part isn't only the smaller life. It's the quiet grief of having played the game correctly and losing anyway. Most months she's fine. The bills get paid, the car starts, the grandkids call. But there's a particular evening, usually when the new rent notice comes, when she looks at the account and does the countdown. How many years are left in the pile at this rate? And the number is smaller than the number of years she might live. That math is the thing she carries. She isn't bitter, which surprised me. She's clear. She'd tell you she isn't angry that the plan was hard. She's angry that nobody told her it might not be enough even when she did all of it right. That the promise was quietly bigger than the truth. Here's what I want to leave you with, and it's the reason Susan's story matters more than a story about somebody who slipped up. Susan didn't fail. She saved for 36 years. She followed every rule, and she still ended up at the same kitchen table doing the same frightened arithmetic as people who started with far less. The difference between her and Margaret and Frank turned out to be smaller than anyone promised. That's not a story about 3 people making mistakes. It's a story about one system quietly asking ordinary savings to do something they were never quite large enough to do, and then calling it personal failure when they couldn't. The rules aren't a lie exactly. Saving is still better than not saving. Susan is better off with her shrinking pile than without it. But the rules were sold as a guarantee, and they were never a guarantee. They were a raffle ticket with better odds, handed out with the confidence of a promise. So here's my question, and I read every one. You've been told a number, the number that's supposed to make you safe. Have you ever actually run it forward, across all the years, against rising rent and one bad autumn? Do the quiet math down in the comments. Not to scare yourself, to see the real number before the fourth year does it for you. Because the most frightening retirement story isn't the person who did it wrong. It's the one who did everything right and found out right was never quite enough.